There is a faculty inside your mind that most people never develop. It sits dormant, unused, forgotten. Yet this single faculty has built every fortune, solved every great problem, and created every advancement in human history. That faculty is imagination. Now, I'm not talking about fantasy. I'm not talking about wishful thinking or daydreaming. I'm talking about the disciplined use of your mind to create solutions that do not yet exist. Most people confuse imagination with entertainment. They think imagination is for children, for artists, for dreamers. But imagination is the most practical tool you possess. It is the difference between solving a problem and complaining about it, between creating opportunity and waiting for it, between designing your life and accepting whatever comes. Let me tell you something remarkable about how your mind works. Your brain stores everything you have ever learned, seen, or experienced. Every conversation, every book, every observation. This creates what I call your mental inventory. Imagination is the process of combining items from your inventory in new ways. When you face a problem, your imagination searches through this inventory, looking for combinations that might work. The larger your inventory, the more combinations are possible. The more combinations are possible, the more creative your solutions become. This is why two people can face the same problem and produce completely different solutions. They have different inventories. One person has a toolbox with 3 tools. The other has a warehouse full of materials. Which one do you think solves the problem better? Most people stop adding to their inventory after formal education ends. They learn what they need for their job, then they stop. They read the same type of books, talk to the same people, think the same thoughts year after year. Their inventory stays small, their imagination stays weak, and they wonder why they keep getting the same results. Think about a carpenter who only owns a hammer. Every problem looks like a nail. He cannot imagine any other solution because he has no other tools in his inventory. That is how most people approach life. They have a handful of familiar solutions, and they try to force every problem to fit those solutions. When it does not work, they give up. They say, the problem cannot be solved. But the problem can be solved, just not with the tools they currently possess. Here is the exciting part. You can expand your inventory at any time. You can add new tools, new materials, new possibilities to your mental warehouse. Every book you read adds to it. Every skill you learn adds to it. Every conversation with someone different from you adds to it. And as your inventory grows, your imagination becomes more powerful. You start seeing solutions other people miss. You start connecting ideas in ways others never consider. You start creating value that did not exist before. Let me give you an example of how this works. Suppose you want to increase your income. Most people approach this problem with a very small inventory. They think ask for a raise or find a new job. Those are the only 2 tools in their toolbox. But someone with a larger inventory sees dozens of possibilities. They might think about creating a side business, teaching what they know, solving a recurring problem in their industry, or packaging their expertise in a new way. Same problem, different inventories, completely different solutions. Now here is something most people do not understand about imagination. Imagination requires quiet time to work. Your mind needs space to make new connections, but most people fill every spare moment with noise. They turn on the television the moment they get home. They scroll through their phones waiting in line. They avoid silence at all costs. This is deadly to imagination. Imagination cannot work in constant noise. It needs time to sort through your inventory, to try combinations, to test possibilities. The greatest ideas rarely come when you are staring at a screen. They come in the shower, on a walk, in the quiet moments between activities. Because that is when your imagination has room to breathe. I want you to think about your typical day. How much time do you spend in silence? How often do you turn off all inputs and just think? For most people, the answer is never. and then they wonder why they never have any good ideas. Your imagination is like a muscle. Use it regularly, and it grows stronger. Ignore it, and it atrophies. Most people let their imagination atrophy completely. They do the same things the same way year after year. They never ask what if, or why not, or how else. They accept the first solution that comes to mind. And the first solution is almost never the best solution. Let me tell you about a habit that will transform your use of imagination. Every night before you sleep, take 15 minutes to think about one specific problem or opportunity. Not to worry about it, not to stress about it, just to think about it creatively. Ask yourself questions. What am I not seeing? What would this look like if it were easy? What would someone with a completely different experience do? Then go to sleep. Your subconscious will work on the problem all night. Often, you will wake up with an insight you did not have before. This is not magic. This is how your brain naturally works when you give it a clear assignment. But most people never give their brain a clear assignment. They just worry vaguely about their problems without ever focusing their imagination on solving them. Now, let me talk about something that stops most people from using their imagination. Fear. Specifically the fear of being wrong. The fear of suggesting something that might not work. The fear of looking foolish. This fear kills imagination faster than anything else. Because imagination requires experimentation. It requires trying things that might not work. It requires being willing to be wrong 10 times to be right once. But we have trained people to avoid being wrong at all costs. In school, wrong answers are punished. At work, mistakes are criticized. In society, failure is mocked. So people learn to play it safe. They learn to only suggest things they know will work. They learn to copy what already exists rather than create something new. And their imagination dies. If you want to develop your imagination, you must become comfortable with being wrong. You must be willing to suggest ideas that might not work. You must be willing to try things that might fail. Because the cost of being wrong is small, but the cost of never trying is enormous. Let me give you another example of imagination at work. Suppose you are stuck in a job you do not enjoy. The person with weak imagination says, "I have no choice. I need the money. I am stuck." But the person with a strong imagination asks different questions. What skills am I developing here? How could I use these skills differently? What problems do I see that need solving? Who is succeeding in ways I admire? These questions activate imagination. They search through the inventory looking for new combinations. And often, the solution appears. Not overnight, but gradually. Not through magic, but through disciplined creative thinking. Here is something else about imagination that matters. Imagination works better when you give it constraints. This sounds backwards, but it is true. When you say solve this problem any way you want, your imagination has nowhere to start. But when you say solve this problem with these specific limitations, your imagination focuses and produces better solutions. Think about poetry. A sonnet has strict rules about rhyme and meter. Those constraints do not limit creativity. They focus it. The best sonnets exist because of the constraints, not despite them. The same is true in business, in relationships, in any area of life. Clear constraints help your imagination find better solutions. So, when you are using imagination to solve a problem, define the constraints clearly. What resources do you actually have? What time frame are you working with? What rules must you follow? Then let your imagination work within those boundaries. You will be surprised at how creative your solutions become. Now let me tell you about imagination and worry. Worry is imagination focused on what you do not want. When you worry, you are using your imagination vividly and consistently to picture negative outcomes. You are rehearsing failure. You are creating detailed mental movies of things going wrong. This is imagination. It is just imagination pointed in the wrong direction. The good news is, you can redirect it. Instead of imagining what could go wrong, imagine what could go right. Instead of rehearsing failure, rehearse success. Instead of picturing problems, picture solutions. Your imagination does not care which direction you point it. It will work just as hard creating pictures of success as pictures of failure. You get to choose. Most people never realize they are making this choice. They worry habitually without understanding that worry is a misuse of imagination. They are taking their most powerful tool and using it to hurt themselves. Stop doing that. When you catch yourself worrying, recognize it as misdirected imagination. Then consciously redirect your imagination toward solutions instead of problems. This single shift can change your entire life. Let me talk about imagination in relationships. Most people never use imagination to improve their relationships. They interact with the same people in the same ways year after year. They have the same conversations, make the same plans, repeat the same patterns. Then they wonder why relationships grow stale. But imagination can breathe new life into any relationship. Ask yourself creative questions. What does this person need that they are not getting? What would make them feel truly appreciated? What experience could we share that we have never tried? These questions activate imagination. They help you see familiar people in new ways. They help you create experiences rather than just passing time. The same principle applies to parenting. Most parents raise their children the way they were raised. They never use imagination to ask if there might be a better way. But what if you approached parenting with imagination? What if you asked how I could help this specific child develop their unique abilities? What if you experimented with different approaches? What if you treated parenting as a creative challenge rather than a duty? Your children would grow up seeing imagination in action. They would learn that problems can be solved creatively. They would develop their own imaginative abilities. And that might be the greatest gift you could give them. Now, here is something important about imagination in action. Imagination without action is just entertainment. You can imagine solutions all day long, but nothing changes until you act. The purpose of imagination is not to escape reality. The purpose is to improve reality. To see what could be, then make it happen. This requires courage, because when you imagine something new, you cannot know for certain it will work. You have to take action based on incomplete information. You have to risk being wrong. But that is the price of creation. That is what separates people who change their circumstances from people who just dream about it. Most people want guarantees before they act. They want to know for certain that their idea will work. But certainty kills imagination. If you wait for certainty, you will wait forever. You must be willing to act on good ideas even when you cannot guarantee the outcome. You must be willing to test your imaginative solutions in the real world. You must be willing to learn, adjust, and try again. This is how imagination creates real change. Let me tell you about imagination and money. Money flows to people who solve problems. The bigger the problem you solve, the more money flows to you. Imagination is how you identify problems others miss. Imagination is how you create solutions others have not thought of. Imagination is how you serve people in ways that others cannot. If you want more money, develop your imagination. Look for problems that frustrate people. Look for inefficiencies that waste time. Look for needs that are not being met. Then use your imagination to create solutions. This is not complicated, but it requires that you develop your imaginative ability. It requires that you build your inventory of knowledge. It requires that you practice creative thinking daily. Most people never do this work. They wait for someone else to create the solution. Then they complain that someone else is making more money. Do not be like most people. Here is another practical way to develop imagination. Take something you do every single day and ask, how could this be done better? Not, how is it done? How could it be done? Maybe it is how you organize your workspace. Maybe it is how you prepare meals. Maybe it is how you communicate with your team. Pick one thing and apply imagination to it. Come up with 5 different ways it could be improved. Then try the best one. This exercise does 2 things. First, it improves your daily life. Second, it strengthens your imaginative muscle. Do this consistently, and you will become someone who naturally sees opportunities for improvement everywhere. That ability is extremely valuable. Now let me address something that stops people from using imagination. The belief that imagination is only for certain types of people. Artists, inventors, entrepreneurs. This belief is completely false. Imagination is useful for everyone in every situation. The accountant uses imagination to find more efficient systems. The nurse uses imagination to ease patient anxiety. The teacher uses imagination to help students understand difficult concepts. Imagination improves everything. It is not limited to creative fields. It is essential in every field. So stop telling yourself that imagination is not for you. Stop telling yourself you are not creative. Everyone has imagination. The only question is whether you develop it or let it die. Let me give you a challenge. For the next 30 days, spend 15 minutes each evening using imagination deliberately. Pick one area of your life you want to improve. Spend 15 minutes imagining solutions. Not worrying about problems, imagining solutions. Write down every idea that comes to mind, no matter how impractical it seems. Do not judge your ideas, just capture them. After 30 days, you will have a collection of possibilities you never would have discovered through conventional thinking. Some ideas will be terrible, some will be impractical, but some will be brilliant. And those brilliant ideas can change everything. This is how you develop imagination. Not through some mystical process, through consistent, deliberate practice. Through giving your mind permission to explore possibilities. Through building your inventory of knowledge. Through being willing to consider ideas that might not work. Do this work, and your imagination will grow stronger. Your solutions will grow better. Your results will grow larger. And you will become someone who creates value rather than just consuming it. So here is where we stand. You have a faculty inside your mind that can solve any problem you face. That faculty is imagination. But like any tool, it only works if you use it. Most people never develop their imagination. They accept the first solution they encounter. They do things the way they have always been done. They never expand their mental inventory. They never give themselves quiet time to think. They never practice creative problem solving. And they wonder why their circumstances never improve. But you can be different. You can choose to develop your imagination deliberately. You can build your inventory through constant learning. You can create space for creative thinking. You can practice asking better questions. You can apply imagination to every area of your life. And when you do, everything changes. Your income changes because you create more value. Your relationships change because you interact more creatively. Your satisfaction changes because you are creating rather than just consuming. Imagination is not optional if you want to live a fulfilling life. It is essential. It is the difference between shaping your future and accepting whatever happens. Between solving problems and being defeated by them. Between creating the life you want and settling for what you get. The question is not whether you have imagination. You do. Every human being has this faculty. The question is whether you will develop it. Whether you will use it. Whether you will make imagination a daily practice instead of an occasional accident. I hope you will. I hope you will start today. Not tomorrow, today. Spend 15 minutes tonight imagining solutions to your most pressing problem. Add one new item to your mental inventory this week through reading or learning something completely new. Create space in your day for quiet thinking. Practice asking creative questions. Do this consistently, and your imagination will grow stronger. Your solutions will grow better. Your life will grow richer. Because imagination is everything. Not in some mystical sense, but in the most practical sense possible. Imagination is the tool that allows you to create value, solve problems, and design the life you want. It is the faculty that separates people who shape their circumstances from people who are shaped by them. And it is available to you right now. Use it.
If you found this valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new insight. And if you want to go deeper, check out the resources linked in the description. Keep growing, keep thinking, keep listening, and thank you.